Oftentimes, the idea of missions seems so far away. You'd love to serve God on the mission field, but you're not able to pack your bags and move to a new location. You've already got a full schedule and you don't have time to learn the skills necessary to dive headfirst into a new culture. You hear stories of people serving God on the mission field and hope that you can do that someday. But when? In this episode, we're looking at the 4 mission fields you never knew you were in coming up. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Living Sent podcast. I'm Justin Wester, your host, and this is episode 21, the 4 mission fields you never knew you were in. My goal with this podcast is to create content that is valuable to you so that you are encouraged and inspired to live like an everyday missionary in whatever season or stage or setting God has you. As a reminder, today's show notes are available on my website at justinwester.com. Just navigate over to the podcast tab and download those for free. Today's show notes are going to include a free tool for you to use, so be sure to make use of those and share them with your team or your small group at your church or your missional community. Big news, if you haven't already taken advantage of this, my book, Living Sent, Discover How Everyday Habits Make an Eternal Difference, is actually half off through the end of the year, but it's only available through my website. So if you have been a consistent listener for some time and you haven't picked one up, there is no better time to do so than right now. I'm going to be sharing the discount code later in the episode that you will need at checkout, so be sure to listen for that coming up. So today we're discussing something that is incredibly important. And it is so important that I would even say that it is paradigm shifting in how we think about missions. For a lot of people, the idea of being a Live Sent missionary just seems out of reach because, quite frankly, they feel like they can't go to the mission field. And I want to change all of that. My goal by the end of this episode is for you to see yourself as already in 4 mission fields. So here we go. The first mission field you never knew you were in is this. Number 1, your household. Your household. Whether you are married or single, or you have kids or not, the Christian's primary mission field is their household. And the household includes, your immediate and your extended family as well as your closest friends. So that's mom, that's dad, that's husband, that's wife, that's all the kiddos, that's crazy Uncle Frank, grandma, grandpa, all the cousins, and your best friends. It's your blood relatives and your inner circle of friends. This is your household. And maybe because this mission field is so close to each one of us, the work we do here can sometimes seem as though it doesn't really matter that much. And if we're not careful, we can end up viewing our own household as something that is outside the bounds of mission. In the early 1900s, a British evangelist by the name of Rodney Smith, who went by the name Gypsy Smith, he received a letter from a frustrated mother. She desperately wanted to serve the Lord on the mission field, but she felt held back and she felt restrained by her 6 children. So motherhood, in essence, was holding her back from the mission field. But to her surprise, Smith reframed her perspective on mission, and in the letter, he actually thanked God for giving her a mission field, get this, within her own household. Friends, this is the way God designed missions to work. For your first mission field to be your very own household. Deuteronomy 6, 4-9 says this. Listen, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I'm giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road and when you're going to bed and when you're getting up. Tie them on your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. You won't have a heart for mission out there or over there if you don't begin with those around you right here and right now. The first mission field you are already in is your very own household. Here's the second mission field you never knew you were in. You ready for it? Number 2, your neighborhood. Your neighborhood. I talked about this in more detail in episode 2, which was titled The 3 Missionary Qualities You Never Knew You Had. But I want you to think about your neighborhood for a second. Out of all the neighborhoods you could have lived in, you live in this one. And while you for the most part chose where you now currently live, there's one thing about your neighborhood you did not choose, and that's your neighbors. Your neighbors. Do you view yourself as a missionary to your neighbors in your neighborhood? While in Athens, standing in the Areopagus, the Apostle Paul said this. He said, "And he, God, made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek God and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him." Did you catch that? Let me reread that key part once more. It says this. It says, having determined allotted periods, that's time, and the boundaries of their dwelling place, that's location. So your life and your location have been determined by God, and not only yours, but each of your neighbors as well. And this is huge. You cannot miss this. You cannot miss this. That means that whether you live in a house or an apartment, a neighborhood or on an acreage, whether you work in an office or you work remotely, or you like to go outdoors, or you stay inside and you like to play video games online, the people around you have been brought near to you by God for the express purpose of living sent among them. Friends, God has you right where you are for a reason. What would it look like for you to begin to engage your neighborhood with the gospel this week? Hey everybody, just a reminder that my book Living Sent is half off this season, but this deal is only available through my website at justinwester.com. If you'd like to purchase your paperback version or your ebook version, simply head over to my website and use the code SENTXmas23 to get yours today. That's SENTXmas23, SENTXMAS23 to get yours today. Now back to the episode. Okay, so we've got your household, then we've got your neighborhood. Now here's the third mission field you never knew you were in. Number 3, your workplace. Your workplace. Billy Graham once said, "I believe the next great move of God will take place in the marketplace." Now, I love the idea of that, but I believe something must happen before that takes place. First, followers of Jesus must see themselves as marketplace missionaries. You've got to see yourself first as a marketplace missionary, because you will never act like something that you don't believe you are. I currently serve as a pastor at a local church here in Tallahassee, Florida. And prior to joining this church's staff, I used to dream, about what it would be like to serve God in, quote, full-time ministry. And don't get me wrong, there are some amazing things about serving on a church staff in a full-time capacity. But I now realize that you, the marketplace missionary, you have access to people that I will never have. You are daily rubbing shoulders with those who are far from God, those who are lost, those who are in desperate need of the gospel, and that is an amazing opportunity. One of my all-time favorite quotes comes from a guy named Caesar Kalinowski. Caesar, if you're listening, shout out to you. I love it so much that it actually kicks off chapter 1 of my book. And he writes, "Regardless of how God decides to route our paychecks, whether through a business or through a church, we are all full-time paid missionaries." Think about where you work. Think about the people you work with. Imagine your boss, your coworkers, your associates, your customers. Those people are in your immediate sphere of influence, many of them even daily. The marketplace is a mission field that you are already in. And finally, the last mission field you never knew you were in. Here it is. Number 4, your city. Number 4, your city. Have you ever dreamed of living in a different city? Maybe your city is too fast-paced, or maybe you think it's ridiculously slow. Maybe you think that if you could move to that place over there or that country, things would be better, things would be easier. The nation of Israel probably thought the exact same thing about Babylon when they were taken there in captivity. But I want you to listen to the words of the prophet Jeremiah to those exiles. He writes this, "Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, to all the exiles whom I have sent into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon, build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat their produce. Take wives and have sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage that they may bear sons and daughters. Multiply there, do not decrease, but seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare." The Lord did not want Israel to waste their exile by withdrawing into isolation or blindly assimilating into the surrounding culture. No, he wanted them to see their new home, their new city, as a mission field. He wanted them to make the best out of their situation. And friends, it is the same for you and me. Your city, the one where you currently live, is your mission field. And you and I have been sent there by God to share the gospel with it in both word and deed, to make it better through the power of the gospel. Will you? The reality is you don't have to wait to be sent onto the mission field because you are already on it. Let me say it again. You don't have to wait to be sent on the mission field because you're already on it. If you call Jesus Lord, He has already sent you to engage your household, your neighborhood, your workplace, and your city with the good news. You don't have to live sent. You get to. We'll see you next time.